Where it started. Everyone else had gone home. Ciara stayed to help her mother with the dishes, the way she always did, the two of them moving around each other in a kitchen that hadn't changed its layout in 20 years. "You didn't eat much," her mother said, not looking up from the sink. "I ate." "You picked." Ciara dried a glass and said nothing, because there was no winning that one. Her mother handed her another dish, and for a while they worked in the kind of quiet that only exists between people who've never had to fill silence to prove they're comfortable in it. "Nick seems nice," her mother said. "Casual, too casual." "He is." "You don't say that like it's a good thing." Ciara almost laughed. "It is a good thing." "Then why do you sound like you're bracing for something?" Ciara didn't answer right away. She set the glass down carefully, like the conversation was also something she could break if she wasn't careful. "I don't know. I don't want to get used to something and then have it taken away." Her mother was quiet for a second. Then she dried her hands on the towels slowly, like she was deciding whether to say the next part. "You know I felt that way about your father, before things got bad. I used to tell myself if I didn't get too comfortable, it wouldn't hurt as much when it ended." "Did it work?" "No," her mother smiled, "but it wasn't really a happy one. It just meant I spent good years bracing for an ending that hadn't happened yet." Ciara looked at her mother, really looked, the way you look at someone when you suddenly see them as a person who was young once, who was scared once, who maybe still is. "I didn't know you felt like that," she said quietly. "I didn't exactly announce it," her mother shrugged, turning back to the sink. "But I think you picked some of it anyway. Kids do that. They don't need you to say it out loud. They just watch." Ciara stood there with the towel in her hands, something settling into place that she couldn't quite name yet. She'd always thought the bracing was hers, something she built on her own, brick by brick, every time something good felt too good to trust. But maybe she hadn't built all of it. Maybe some of it had been handed to her before she was old enough to know she was holding it. She finished the dishes in silence, and when she hugged her mother goodbye at the door, she held on a second longer than usual. In the car, she sat with the engine off for a minute before she started it. "Some of this isn't even mine," she thought. It didn't fix anything, but it explained a lot. The joke that didn't land. The date with Justin was easy. It was always easy with him, which was its own kind of unsettling. They were splitting an appetizer, trading the kind of back and forth that didn't require either of them to think too hard, when he asked, "What was it like growing up the funny one?" "Lucrative," Jazz said. "Free therapy for everyone but me." He laughed, but he didn't move on right away. He just looked at her for a second, like he was waiting to see if there was a real answer under the joke. "No, really," he said. "What was it like?" Jazz felt the familiar pull to deflect again, another line, another exit, and for once she noticed herself doing it before she did it. "It was fine," she said, slower this time. "I think I figured out early that if I was entertaining enough, nobody asked me how I was actually doing, which was convenient because I usually didn't know. It wasn't a punchline. She hadn't meant for it not to be. Justin didn't fill the silence right away, which she appreciated more than she expected to. "You don't have to be funny right now," he said. Not a correction, just an offer. Jazz looked down at her plate, picked at the edge of it. "It's hard to turn off," she admitted. "I'm not asking you to turn it off," he shrugged, easy. "I just want you to know you don't have to perform for me. I already like you. The bit's not required." She laughed, a real one this time, short and a little surprised out of her. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me on a date." "Low bar," he said, smiling. "Extremely." They moved back into easier territory after that, jokes and food and the comfortable noise of the restaurant around them, but something had shifted underneath it. Jazz caught herself twice more before the night ended, reaching for a deflection, and twice more choosing not to use it. It wasn't a confession, it wasn't even close to one, it was just a few extra seconds of letting someone see her without a joke standing in front of it. Small, but new. Good, not just safe. Ava hadn't taken a day for just herself in longer than she could actually remember. She started at the little bookstore 2 blocks from her apartment, the one with the creaky floor and the cat that wasn't supposed to be there, but always was. She wasn't looking for anything specific, that was sort of the point. She bought a book because the cover caught her, not because anyone had recommended it. Brunch was a table for one at the cafe on the corner, and she let herself enjoy the small, specific luxury of not making conversation. Just her coffee, the book open in front of her, and absolutely nowhere to be. She thought about what she'd said out loud in episode 7, about choosing safe instead of good, the words still sitting somewhere in her chest, like she hadn't fully unpacked them yet. Aidan had been exciting, Corey had been steady, and for a long time she'd told herself the question was which one to pick. But sitting there, alone, with nothing to perform and no one to manage, she realized the question underneath the question. It wasn't really about Aidan or Corey. It was about whether she trusted herself to choose something because it was good for her, and not just because it was the easier, safer, more obviously sensible-looking thing. She didn't solve it. She didn't try to. She just let herself sit with it, the same way she let herself sit with the quiet of the cafe, the cat from earlier somehow showing up 2 blocks away on her walk home, weaving between her ankles like it had followed her on purpose. Back in her apartment, she made tea she didn't rush through, and read until the light outside changed colors. No big revelation, no phone call to either of them, no decision made. Just an afternoon of being present in her own life instead of managing it. "This is enough," she said out loud to no one, and meant it. Paying closer attention. Brianna had stopped asking questions out loud. She'd started keeping them instead. It happened gradually enough that she almost didn't notice the shift, from wondering what something meant to simply writing it down mentally in a column she was keeping without calling it a column. Tuesday, Jay said he was staying late to finish a project. He came home smelling like a restaurant, not an office. Thursday, his phone buzzed twice during dinner. Both times he turned it face down without looking at it. He never used to do that. He used to just glance and go back to eating. Saturday, she mentioned Brian's name in passing, asking if Jay had heard from him lately, and there was a half-second pause before he said, "Not really." A half-second that wouldn't have meant anything 2 months ago and meant something now. She wasn't accusing him of anything. She hadn't said a single word out loud about any of it. She was just noticing, logging it almost, the way you'd track symptoms before a doctor's appointment, not because you've diagnosed anything yet, but because patterns only show up once you start writing them down. Tonight, after he'd fallen asleep in front of the TV, she sat at the kitchen table with her phone and scrolled back through their texts from the last 3 weeks, not looking for anything specific, just looking. Shorter replies, slower replies, a running late that used to come with a reason and now just came alone. None of it was proof of anything, she knew that. Any one of these things by itself meant nothing. People get busy, people get tired, people forget to glance at their phone before flipping it over. But all of it together was starting to look like a shape. She didn't say anything to him. She didn't text the girls about it either, not yet. She wanted to understand what she was looking at before she said it out loud to anyone, including herself. She closed out of the messages, set her phone face down on the table, the way he always did now, and sat there for a moment in the quiet kitchen. She wasn't questioning anymore. She was watching. Same room, different air. Jazz's apartment smelt like popcorn and the candle Ava always lit without asking, and for a while it felt exactly like every other movie night they'd ever had. Ciara brought wine, Ava brought a ridiculous amount of snacks for someone who'd had a quiet self-care day. Jazz already had the movie picked out before anyone arrived, something none of them would remember the plot of by morning. Brianna showed up last, like always, and folded herself into the open spot on the couch like she'd never left. They laughed about nothing in particular, a meme Jazz found, a story Ava told badly on purpose, Ciara narrating the movie in a voice none of them asked for. It was easy. It was loud in the right ways and quiet in the right ways. But underneath it, something had shifted since episode 7, subtle enough that none of them would have been able to name it if you'd asked. At one point, during a lull in the movie, Brianna caught Ciara's eye across the room, just for a second, long enough to say something neither of them said out loud, something like, "I see you carrying something too," or maybe just, "I'm glad you're here." Ciara held the look for a beat, then smiled, small, and looked back at the screen. Nobody asked Brianna if she was okay, even though if anyone had looked closely they might have noticed she was a little quieter than usual. Nobody pushed Jazz to explain the soft new thing in how she talked about Justin. Nobody pressed Ava on what she'd done with her day alone, beyond a casual, "You seem good," that Ava just smiled at. No one forced a deep conversation. No one needed to. There was a comfortable silence at one point, all four of them just existing in the same room, the movie murmuring in the background, and it didn't feel like anything was missing from it. If anything, it felt like more was there than usual, like the honesty from a few weeks ago hadn't disappeared, it had just settled into the room, quiet and permanent, the way trust does once you've actually tested it. Brianna leaned her head back against the couch at one point and let herself just be there, not watching for clues, not bracing for anything. Just 4 women, take-out containers, and a movie nobody was following. Life was going to keep moving, none of them had it figured out, but something between them had quietly gotten deeper, and for tonight, that was enough.